Welcome back to you. Owen Fairclough here for the latest business news. Lots of earnings out this week. Few are going to be more keenly anticipated and maybe dreaded than Nokia's.
I suspect the latter, unfortunately, Stuart, because we're expecting yet another set of bad results for Nokia. Second quarter results. Reuters analysts are expecting potentially around 700 million euros in losses for the last quarter. Now, one of the things that's helped Nokia a lot is it has had a significant cash pile, around 5 billion euros, but the analysts think that Nokia will have eaten into that by around €1 billion just in the last quarter alone. Let's get some more on this from Scott Biceno. He's a smartphone expert and analyst based at Strategy Analytics, and he joins us now from the UK. Good morning to you, Scott. Stephen Elop, the chief executive of Nokia, said in his last quarter remarks that he expected Nokia's performance to be worse. Now, we're seeing the share price at something like a 15 or 18-year low. We had a disastrous relaunch in the United States. A lot of people are now asking, can Nokia survive even the next 12 months?
I would say yes, as you just covered in your preamble. They've got plenty of cash in the bank still. I don't think it's necessarily a given that the relaunch in the US has been a disaster. It's still early days. The Lumia 900 was only launched earlier this year. So I think it's still sort of early days for a new platform, as you say, a relaunch. The results aren't going to be great, and they've pre-warned that. But I don't think it's necessarily time to be sort of getting too apocalyptic about them.
They have, though, haven't they, halved the Lumia 900 price. I mean, the contrast with iPhone couldn't be greater, some would say. It sells, of course, for hundreds of dollars. The Lumia 900, just months after its launch, is heading towards kind of bargain basement prices, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was launched, I believe, at around where they structure tariffs and subsidies in the US is slightly different from over here. It was launched at about $100 upfront cost plus the cost of the tariffs, and they've halved that to $50 according to reports. But that's not unprecedented. That was 3 months after the launch, and that quite often happens, including to the very well-selling Samsung Galaxy S2. So that's not unprecedented. And you compare it to the iPhone. Let's not forget, back in 2007, when the first iPhone was launched, within a few months, Apple knocked $200 off the price, albeit from a much higher price point. But I think there are comparisons. I don't think it's necessarily exceptional. And one other point I'd make, we're not entirely sure what has brought about this price cut. It could be increased subsidy from AT&T rather than the price cut from Nokia.
And of course, I don't think those figures will be included in this quarter's results, Scott. You do seem, I have to say, much more optimistic than the vast majority of people I talk to about Nokia. Going back to the relaunch with Windows, is that a successful partnership, would you say, based on the kind of numbers you've seen? Or is it time that Nokia thought the unthinkable, perhaps, and looked for another partner?
I mean, I might sound more optimistic than some people you speak to. There are obviously still massive challenges. I just wanted to correct some of the assumptions that seem to have arisen over this price cut. That's all. But yes, you know, Nokia is selling a fraction of the volume it was even a year ago. I don't think either Nokia or Microsoft that they could well have hoped for higher volume than this. But as far as looking for another partner, I mean, I think all the signs are that Nokia's gone all in with Microsoft, and to a certain extent, vice versa. There was one abortive attempt to relaunch their high-end smartphone platform in the form of MeeGo. I really don't think they can have a third crack at this. So they've got to persist with this and just keep going until, hopefully for them, they turn it around.
And it's perhaps easy to forget as well that when we talk about Nokia's demise, we're perhaps talking more about advanced markets. I was in Indonesia on holiday just a few months ago, and one thing that really struck me was that I saw Nokia signs absolutely everywhere. I didn't see one Apple sign anywhere I went there. And perhaps that's an illustration that in these kind of markets, companies like Nokia are actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, and you know, and another company that's not doing as well as it was, RIM, which makes Blackberries. They're pretty strong in Indonesia as well. You know, some of these companies that have been around for a while, let's not forget, Nokia dominated this market for a decade, have very extensive distribution networks, and that doesn't go away overnight. Yes, their brand isn't what it once was, thanks mainly to Apple and now Android. but it's still there. There's brand awareness, there's distribution networks, there's all those pieces in place. I'll stress again, that doesn't mean that they're going to get back to their former glories, but I think it's important to be aware of some of the things they still have on their side, yes.
Scott Busceno, thank you very much for talking to us today. Good to have you on the programme. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, Owen, those Nokia results out 1 p.m. Paris time. How are the numbers on the European markets looking then?
Decent opening, Stuart. There's lots happening today. Of course, we've got a bond sale in Spain. We've got more protests in Madrid as well. The Bundestag in Germany votes on that all-important and crucial bank bailout for the Spanish. So lots going on, but the markets seem to be reasonably positive. It's not been a bad week in Europe, and we don't say that very often these days. All up around about 0.5%, as you can see there. The Asian markets as well. The Hang Seng, again, it's showing it's having a pretty good July and a good summer so far. Well up over 1.5%. I nearly said 100% there. That would be something. The Nikkei not too far behind, but more modest gains for the day.
OK, Owen, let's get a few more of the day's business news now then. The head of the Bank of France says there's no action has to be taken so far against the three biggest French banks over the rate rigging scandal. Christian Noyer spoke as it emerged that the investigation into Libor manipulation is extending to banks like Societe Generale, Crédit Agricole and a number of other big names. Financial authorities in the US, UK and Europe are trying to find out if the fraud extended beyond Barclays.
The Spanish government is testing investor confidence once again this Thursday as it looks to raise €3 billion in credit. As protesters take to the streets over fresh cutbacks, the Treasury will try to reduce pressure on its long-term borrowing costs by selling 1- and 5-year bonds that carry a slightly lower interest rate. Spain is battling to maintain its access to credit markets after submitting to a €100 billion bailout for its banks.
And Manchester United will begin their stock market flotation in New York next week, a month ahead of schedule. According to Reuters, the English football club will begin preliminary work on pricing for its return to equity markets. The club now looking to raise around $300 million, significantly less than the $1 billion reportedly sought when it was considering Hong Kong and Singapore for its IPO.
Just very briefly, Stuart, no prizes for getting what the symbol will be on the ticker in the New York Stock Exchange. Man-U. What else? M-A-N-U. Very short and sweet.
Very good.
Man U. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Expect Man United take about a month or so to complete that roadshow with its IPO. Expected to start trading maybe the end of August. Quiet time for markets generally, so quite a canny move. But I don't know. Facebook's IPO was less than stellar, so.
Yeah. See how it goes. All right, Owen, thank you very much. More business, of course, coming up with Owen tomorrow, in fact, here on France 5 Cat, and the latest headlines from Catherine Restraint after the break.